Ladies and gentlemen, I need to apologize. I have made a mistake. The Minnesota Timberwolves are for real. Like, for real, for real. Like, maybe the best team in the league for real. And I'm sure you've already watched countless videos on them, but I just have to talk about this squad because, one, everyone should stop and give them some love, especially me, the man who made a whole video about why I don't trust them. And two, we need to document the potential start of the Anthony Edwards era. So if you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe. Comment down below how far you think the Minnesota Timberwolves can actually go. Share this video with some friends and welcome to the sweatshop. The first part of this video is just going to be a glaze fest, no pause for the entire Minnesota Timberwolves franchise because they deserve it. For my entire life, essentially, they have been consistently one of the 2 or 3 teams where a bet against them would be a sound investment any season, but they now appear to have built a contending roster that should be together for the next 4 to 5 seasons. And all of that starts with the team's GM, Tim Connolly. Now, our boy Timothy should not get all of or even most of the love for the creation of this roster since he didn't become the GM of the team until 2022. That's after Cat, McDaniels, Naz Reid, hell, even Anthony Edwards got drafted. So let's stop with the talks of him constructing this roster to beat his former team because he didn't. He did make a couple moves, however, that have put this team over the top and deserve some attention. One, the less infamous of the 2 trades, the trade to acquire Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Conley was and is the perfect vet and someone the team really needed. He's the heart of the locker room, off the court, and on the court he is still a high impact player. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, someone who I didn't really think was going to be that good when he got traded, has been a solid point guard off the bench. Number 2, trading for Rudy Gobert. Now, I will admit I did not like the Rudy Gobert trade when it happened, but let's be honest with ourselves. Nobody did. Rudy Gobert's own mother probably thought the Wolves gave up too much to get him. And while I still think 3 solid role players and 5 first-round picks is a bit steep for Rudy Gobert, none of us can really say anything at the moment because the trade appears to have been at the very least the right basketball move. And very few people foresaw this future outside of Tim Connolly's front office, so I gotta give him and his staff props. The person in that trade, Le Covid connoisseur himself, has literally been as good as he realistically could have been this season. On the T-Wolves this year, he's been the same level of dominant rim protector he's always been, maybe 5% worse, and a modicum of competence on offense. He is still not good, don't get me wrong, but he is at least passing out of the pick and roll pretty well and has improved his finishing and short mid-range shooting. He completely deserves all the love he's getting this year, but he would not be getting all this newfound respect if it were not for his main frontcourt mate, Karl Anthony Towns. Cat was and is the linchpin of this defense. If Cat was at his usual level of defensive play this season, there is no way this team's defense would be this good. I've said this multiple times before, but I will continue to say it until I feel the general populace understands just how good this defense was in the regular season. The Timberwolves defense was so far ahead of the rest of the league that the difference between them and the second best defense according to defensive rating was the same as the difference between the 2nd and 10th best defense, and they've somehow been even more dominant in the playoffs. A defense this good doesn't just happen unless you have good to great defensive personnel up and down the roster, and I believe the Timberwolves have just that. And none are more important than Karl Anthony Towns. This isn't to say that Cat is the best defender on the team. That obviously go to Rudy or McDaniels or even Ant. This is all to say that, as I said before, Karl is the linchpin of this defense. For this twin tower scheme to work defensively, Karl has to be a good perimeter defender when Rudy's on the court and a good interior defender when Rudy's on the bench, and he's been just that. It's because of him that the T-Wolves D doesn't really have a weakness, to the point where they can even stifle one of the most potent offenses we've seen in recent history on their home court when Rudy's not even playing. None of that happens without Cat taking some pride on the defensive end, so props to him. The T-Wolves supporting cast should get some love too. The main reason I did not trust this team as a whole was because of them. I didn't think they had anyone they could consistently count on if and when their opponent game planned to take Ant out of the game. And while I was technically right, there hasn't been any one person they could count on night in and night out to give them 20, I still ended up being wrong because there's always been someone out of the group to step up. It just hasn't been the same person night to night. Mike Conley, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, even Nickeil Alexander-Walker. In every game this playoffs, at least one of these guys has stepped up to the plate and given Minnesota some much needed offense. Props to all of them. The coach, Chris Finch, I said before that you can't have a defense this good without having a roster littered with good defensive personnel. You also can't have this good a defense without an elite coach, and Chris Finch is just that. His ability to get everyone to buy in and his ability to scheme up a defense has been on full display in this postseason run. As a Thunder fan, if Mark Daigneault lost the Coach of the Year award to him, I wouldn't have been the least bit upset. And before we get to the belle of the ball, I see you haven't liked and subscribed. Just do it real quick and we can continue. You done it yet? Alright, good. Ant-Man and Michael Jordan Jr., the second coming of Black Jesus. What do you want? He's the dictionary definition of him. Everyone glazing this man's Johnson, no magic, double entendre, and it's well deserved. But I won't go through the same song and dance as everyone else. You've heard it all before. Instead, I'll go over a few things I just want to make sure people know about this man. 1. He has been performing at or near this level in the playoffs for his whole career. So when people are making their player rankings next year and have him pretty high, you cannot just say recency bias. He's been Batman for a minute. He just finally has the Robins and Alfreds every #1 option needs to go deep in the playoffs. 2. If he leads this team out of the West and into the NBA Finals, there are a maximum of 5 people you can say are better than him, and he'll have beat at least 2 of them this playoff run. 3. There are only 2 guys in the last half century that have led a team to the NBA Finals at Ant's age, Bron and KD. And 4. This is a little less all-timey and more just general observations on how he plays. Paolo, Franz, Halliburton. This offseason, I want all of you guys to watch SGA and Anthony Edwards tape to see how to properly carry your team's offense to wins. SGA and Ant have the most potent mix of playing within and outside an offensive system out of all the players currently in the league. When these guys' offenses are rolling, when Jalen Williams or Naz Reid is feeling it, both SGA and Ant are more than fine with feeding the hot hand. But the moment the offense stalls, give them the ball and get the hell out of the way. And for both of them, whenever they get the ball in their hands on an ISO, there is no star in the league other than Jokic that makes me feel more secure. Like it's a foregone conclusion that the ball is going through the net. Okay, so done with the glazing. Next part. The Nuggets are royally. And this ain't no recency bias thing, this is a history thing. In the entire history of the NBA, 29 teams have gone down 0-2 at home. And of those 29, only 5 have come back to win. So it's not impossible, but the odds are definitely stacked against Denver. They have to win the next game because, as everyone knows, going down 0-3 in the playoffs is a legitimate death sentence. But even if they do win game 3, hell, even if they win both games in Minnesota, there isn't that much of a reprieve because the Timberwolves have proven not just that they can beat you on your home court, they've proven they can throttle you. I don't know, this team just matches up too well with our Nuggies. Ant and McDaniels can tag team Jamal Murray so neither of them loses too much steam. Cat, Gobert, and Reed can do the same to Jokic. And because Aaron Gordon isn't a great shooter, the big that's not guarding Jokic can just stay in the paint and muck up the whole offense. And as the small cherry on top, the entire Nuggets bench is shooting like Drake in the booth. Straight bricks. Now, as I mentioned before, the Nuggets still have a chance. I don't care how good your defense is, Nikola Jokic is too good to be held down like he has been for 4 consecutive games. And while the T-Wolves defense has been exceptional on Murray, I do think part of his issues is that his calf is injured. He's had a few days now to rest up, so hopefully he's closer to 100%. And on top of both of these points, there isn't a huge gap between these rosters. Mike Malone is a really good coach and he still has some avenues to go down. I personally would be interested in seeing Aaron Gordon guard Anthony Edwards. KCP is an elite perimeter defender, but his forte is navigating screens and keeping guys in front of him and neutralizing quick guards, and that's just not Ant. That's not all Ant is. I mean, he's a quick guard and he'll regularly use screens, but he's at his best when he's a bully. His bread and butter is back to the basket, get to the lane, and hit you with some silly post move to get into a post fade. The best way to stop that is to have someone strong enough to stop him from backing down so easy. And most guards, KCP included, just aren't strong enough for that. I would be interested in seeing what Aaron Gordon can do. He's someone Ant can't bulldoze, and he's also a pretty good perimeter defender on top of that. I mean, why not? It's not perfect. Aaron is a good perimeter defender, but he's usually guarding front court players, not high-level shot-creating guards. So while he may be able to neutralize Ant's post-ups, I don't know if he'll be able to keep up with Ant on screens and stuff like that, or just perimeter ISOs, which are something Ant is also elite at. And that also means you have MPJ on Cat, which would be a travesty for the boards, but I don't know, man. I'm just spitballing and you down 0-2. It's time to throw some shit at the wall and see what sticks. I don't know if Aaron Gordon on Anthony Edwards is it, but Mike Malone, you gotta try something. With that, Thank you, dear viewer, for watching this video all the way through. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Comment down below how good you think the Timberwolves will be in the near future. Share this with a friend, and as always, stay sweaty, ladies and gentlemen.